Welcome to another edition of Gary's Record Collection. So there's a whole bunch of albums out there that were never available to the general public. Promos for radio stations, special 12-inch mixes and whatever. And concerts that were put out for radio stations only, and radio shows like Casey Kasem, American Top 40. That was distributed by record back starting in the 70s. All the way through the CD era, and then they changed to CDs, started pressing them on there and sending them out to stations. And so it's a interesting little side detour into record collecting, that you have all of these records that were just not available to the general public. And so today we are going to talk about one of them. This is a three-record set, a six-sided set. This is a Superstar Concert Series put out by Westwood One Radio Networks, and this is Eric Clapton in concert at the Royal Albert Hall, January 24th, 1990. This came out, this was put out, for the week of, it was like the 23rd week in 1990. So, and here's the album, and it's in the sleeve, but it has a special label on there, Westwood One Radio Networks, Light Beer, Miller Lite was a sponsor, Superstar Concert Series, the side, and then it has the little code there, CO90-23, so that was 1990, week number 23. This was a weekly show that was put out and would be on rock and roll stations. There was the Superstar Concert Series. Westwood One put out a whole bunch of concerts. Superstar Concert Series, In Concert, the BBC, live at the BBC. Then there was the competing one. It was the King Biscuit Flower Hour put out by DIR Radio Networks. And it was great because when we knew those were coming on the radio, we made an appointment to get the cassette ready to go and hope you had great FM reception. Where I lived, we were right on the edge of really good reception until I got a better antenna. So sometimes it was really fuzzy. Sometimes it was pretty clear. The other thing is that back in those days, you had no way of, setting a tape to record later. I mean, I wound up actually doing it. I started on cassette, and then when I got a stereo hi-fi VCR, I actually started recording concerts that were longer than 45 minutes, record them on a VHS tape, and then go and dub them later. Because what would happen is, if you tried to record it on a cassette, you'd get to the halfway point, and you'd better hope that the music is over by the time the cassette gets to 45 minutes. There was a little bit of extra tape on there, so you would cut to 46:30, I think. It was how much was on that tape. But it didn't matter. You didn't know what was coming, so the VCRs helped a lot with that. And then obviously now you can just record it digitally and you don't have to worry about it. You can set up a timer and you can do all of that stuff. You don't have to be around. I remember one Eric Clapton concert that was on the radio, and it was for it was the King Biscuit Flower Hour, and it was from 1985. I had to work that night. These were on like Sunday nights at 10, right? So I had to work that night. So I had my poor mom, I set the cassette up. I said, Mom, start recording this at 10 o'clock. I'll go in at 10:45 and flip the tape and switch it over. And to her credit, she did, and got the show. And then I wound up getting it on a CD later at a record convention, which was kind of awesome too. We'll have to talk about that. We'll have to talk about record conventions someday. But here it is. Anyway, so we've got this set, and now what it comes with, it came with all the albums, but it also came with this. This is called a cue sheet. And if you look right there, it has side one. There's the in cue, applause, blah, 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 and the commercials that are going to play, and then the songs. And then that tells you, and then there's those are all what we call national commercials. And then you look right here, and it says local break. So that's where your local radio station could play commercials of, the local car dealer or whatever. And that's how they made their money on that show. It was like free programming. It was barter programming. The radio stations would provide the programming, but you had to run their commercials too. So that's how it was basically free to radio stations to do. So Okay, so let's say it's the week that this is going to air. And what they did is they sent this concert out. It's got all of the music, the commercial, and everything. And it also has a promo for the show that you can run before the show actually airs to generate interest. Here is the promo for this show.
This week on the Superstar Concert Series, Eric Clapton. Slow Hand, this week brought to you by Miller Lite.
And then there's a little bit of pad on the end where you can say your local radio station's name too. So catch it Sunday night at 10 on W whatever. And then we go into the actual record, and it starts with the intro. Here is when the show starts.
Miller Lite presents the Superstar Concert Series. This time out, we're off to the Royal Albert Hall in London for 90 minutes with Eric Clapton. The Superstar Concert Series is being brought to you over the Westwood One Radio Network by Miller Lite. When it's Miller Lite, less filling, tastes great. I'm Phil Hendry. He was once known simply as God, then as Slow Hand, and now he's the Journeyman. Eric Clapton from the stage of the Albert Hall right after this.
So you'd like a job here.
And
yes,
then they go to a
Ryan,
commercial. And they also said 90 minutes too, which is, the show aired within a 90-minute time frame, but if you take out all the commercials, it winds up being about 75 minutes or so. In the early days of the CD, it would just barely fit onto, the music would just barely fit onto a CD. There's also bumps after you'd have some of the music, and then you have commercials, and then you would have a bump, which was the transition between the national and the local commercials.
Sponsored by the Beef Industry Council and Beef Board.
You're listening to the Superstar Concert Series featuring Eric Clapton. We'll return in a moment.
And that's where you would play your local commercials. And so now, let's set the stage. So this concert was January 24th, 1990. This is part of the residency that Eric Clapton had at the Royal Albert Hall. He did that in 1990 and 91. And then actually, after 91 is when he put out this 24 Nights CD, which is a compilation of all the nights from those two runs. And it actually, there's a couple of songs on here that did make it to the actual CD. And it was The Sunshine of Your Love, and I believe Crossroads too. I got to see where that is. But that was White Room, Sunshine of Your Love, and Running on Faith are the three songs from this concert that made it to the 24 Nights release. However, Running on Faith is actually not on the, it is. It's on the second song in the concert. All right, so the first song, this is right after the Journeyman album came out. So here it is. This is going to be his hit at the time, which was Pretending. this was the big hit off of the Journeyman album. It was the first song that they released, and it was all over the radio. It was on MTV. A great song, and so you could get this right off the bat. Now, interesting, this was only from one concert. This was from the January 24th show. These are the rock and roll shows. They had orchestra nights, and they had blues nights with a 4-piece. So they split up their run in January and February to be a whole bunch of rock nights, a whole bunch of blues nights, and a whole bunch of orchestra nights. So this is completely from a rock night. And unlike the 24 nights CD and then video as well, and newly released expanded box set, this is only from the one show and not the compilation from the 3. A song that was not on 24 nights, but was in this concert broadcast, was something that I remember from the Eric Clapton put out a video in 1985 from the Hartford Civic Center, and I think it was like maybe the second song in the set, but it was something that I always liked. It was Lay Down Sally. And now something interesting about this was that this particular radio broadcast, and really the format of the time, you had 3 albums. So you had 6 sides divided by 90 minutes, so it's about 15 minutes each side. There were limitations for records about how much you could put on a side. If you started getting into that 25, 30-minute range and tried to cram even more, the grooves had to be a lot thinner, and it would compromise quality, and you wouldn't have that dynamic range. So some of these sides, these sides only have at most 2 songs on them. There's 3 sides that only have 1 song on them. The one song per side ones are Before You Accuse Me, Old Love, and Layla. And Layla's like a 9-minute song anyway. But the other 2 songs, it's like they're shorter, but if they tried to stick another song on there, it would have gone too far into that, sort of imaginary 15 to 20 minute time frame, and they would have to sacrifice quality. Also, you had to fit the commercials on the end of that too. So, but yeah, it's these are pretty cool. We get to the last side, and it's segment 6 is 17 minutes and 33 seconds, and that's just 2 songs. The shortest side on this, according to the cue sheet, Before You Accuse Me, only 7 minutes, 7:48, and then you have 90 seconds of commercials on there. So really, if you look at the album, there's like this gigantic band of dead space at the end because they only needed like 10 minutes out of a 25 minute record. So it's an interesting thing. Collecting these things is, it's like one of those, like I said before, a little detour, a little side project. I used to love, listening to these concerts on the radio, and the ones that I liked, I still have cassettes of them. I still have a box of cassettes from some of these concerts. And there's one I'd still love to get, the Jimmy Page concert from 1988 on vinyl. That usually goes for like $100 online though. So it's like, if once I have some disposable income, maybe I'll get that. But I have a few, so we'll be going through a couple of them in the next coming episodes. So I'll share with you what I have. So there you go. It is the Westwood One Radio Network Superstar Concert Series featuring Eric Clapton, broadcast the weekend of September 1st and 2nd, 1990, from a show on January 24th, 1990 at the Royal Albert Hall. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time on Gary's Record Collection.